Welcome back to Capitol Tonight. Governor Kathy Hochul is directing the New York Power Authority to build a nuclear power plant somewhere in upstate New York. The move comes as a surprise to clean energy advocates who had been waiting for her administration to come out with cap and invest regulations under the 2019 Climate Leadership Act. Hochul says nuclear will create 1,600 construction jobs, 1,200 long-term jobs, and will pave the way for a statewide clean energy economy. Not everybody agrees with her, though. Tonight we hear from a critic of nuclear power, Blair Horner, Senior Policy Advisor for NYPIRG. Great to see you, Blair. Thanks for joining me. Quick question to you. Nuclear power is carbon-free, but the environmental community is almost universally critical of this proposal. Can you explain why?
Well, I mean, you have to look at it from the beginning and the cradle to grave aspects of where do you get the material to actually build a nuclear power plant, the material that you need to actually generate the power. I mean, it's very dirty to dig uranium out of the ground and then to transport it. So there's that environmental impact. The industry has been plagued by environmental problems over the many years that's existed, and there still is no answer to what do you do with the waste. I mean, the nuclear power plants have been built in the United States since the Vietnam War era. In fact, some of the oldest exist in New York State. And the waste from those facilities, which can be very radioactive, are stored on site basically forever. And so since there's no solution to that, one of the big issues that everyone thinks about on the environmental side is, well, what do you do about that? And New York has a history in the sort of the environmental impact area. Governor Nelson Rockefeller back in the 60s and 70s was a leading proponent of establishing nuclear power, and created a place in West Valley, New York, where nuclear waste could be disposed of. And it led to contamination of drinking water and leaks into the Great Lakes. And so there's been that was a huge environmental disaster. Because he was too excited about advancing the issue than he was about thinking about the long-term consequences. And that's what we worry about to this day.
Now, according to Hochul, Blair, this proposal is going to create enough power to electrify 1 million homes. If we powered 1 million homes with wind or solar, there would be trade-offs there as well, wouldn't there? Especially with the build-out. There are already people who are saying, not in my backyard.
Sure. I mean, there's always people who say not in my backyard to almost anything that happens. So the question really is the state if the governor's going to advance this, there are big questions that really need to be answered, and the public needs to be involved in it because these things are enormously expensive. The most recent nuclear power plant that was built in Georgia. It took twice as long to build. It cost almost $40 billion and is now the most expensive nuclear power plant on the planet. Now, is that the plan? Well, I think New Yorkers should have a right to know that.
Yeah, the public comment period for the state's cap and invest program, in the meantime, that's something that the state agencies have to be doing and looking over. That's ending on July 1st. When are you hoping to see the regulations? And do you think that this nuclear plan is sort of getting in the way of finishing up the cap and invest regulations?
Well, I mean, your question about cap and invest, I hope to see it in my lifetime. And I'm not as young as I used to be, Susan, so, you never know. But I think in my lifetime would be great. The cap and invest program's supposed to have already started. Yeah. And the governor's been dragging her feet on the implementation. Look, when it goes back to the nuclear power issue, it's not only the cost of building them, it's the cost of running them. Under former Governor Andrew Cuomo, New York State had to provide subsidies to keep the existing plants open, to the tune of billions of dollars in additional costs to electricity utility ratepayers. We had, right as of April of this year, New Yorkers have already subsidized over $4 billion in additional costs to keep those plants open, and they're going to keep the plants open for 4 more years. It's going to cost maybe $6-7 billion to keep those old plants open. And so it's not just the cost of setting it up and the opportunity costs of not doing something else. It's also how much is it going to cost New Yorkers for the lifespan of these plants. And New Yorkers need to know the answer to those questions before the shovels hit the ground.
Yeah, very, very good points. I'm also wondering if you can share what you think about the political arc of nuclear power. I mean, we saw, I was in Pennsylvania when 3 Mile Island happened. Then we saw Chernobyl. Then we saw Fukushima. And it seemed like nuclear was just off the table after Fukushima. Certainly, then Governor Cuomo used the Fukushima tragedy to say enough with Indian Point, and that plant closed before it was supposed to. And now all of a sudden we're talking about nuclear again. Can you explain that?
Well, there's a powerful industry that's spending campaign contributions and hiring hot-wired lobbyists and PR consultants to advance their point of view. I mean, part of it is the climate disaster that we're living through. And there are some people that say yes to everything about the criticisms of nuclear power, but they also say, even under the worst circumstances, it's better than what's going to happen if you keep heating up the planet. And so that sort of doomsday pick your poison scenario is, I think, what is driving a lot of public policy. But the fact that there's a lot of muscle and money behind these plants is what's driving it now, just like it did in the bailout that Governor Andrew Cuomo agreed to, just like it did when Governor Nelson Rockefeller embraced it back in the 60s. And we've had problems as a result. Do the homework first before shovels dig into the ground.
Got it. Blair Horner, Senior Policy Advisor for the New York Public Interest Research Group, or NYPIRG. Thank you, Blair. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth political coverage. And click the subscribe button here. You can also download our app and watch us on TV to learn more about the candidates, where they stand on the issues, and more. We'll see you then.